Hi there, I'm Pam and we're in my kitchen where I share with you some of my favorite recipes or those most requested by friends and family. And because St. Patrick's Day is right around the corner, I thought it would be fun to make Irish soda bread. And I'm going to be using Ina Garten's recipe because I especially like her addition of grated orange rind. But before I get started, I just want to say to find the recipe and all the ingredients, if you look under the video and under the title and find the word more in bold print, touch it and the recipe will drop down for you. I get a lot of people telling me they can't find the recipe, so I'm just going to add that to my videos now. Okay, so let's get started. We've got a mixing bowl and I've got flour. This is 4 cups of flour. And I'm going to add my flour to the bowl. I'm going to add some sugar. This is a 1/4 cup. If you don't want to use that much sugar, you could easily cut it in half. But this loaf has a little bit of sweetness to it, which is really nice. And then we've got some baking soda and some kosher salt. Now, if you're not using kosher salt, please go online and Google whatever type of salt you are using and the conversion, because kosher salt is very flaky and it measures different than other salt. So you would either not have enough salt or too much in your recipe. Now, we're just going to, on low speed, just get this dry ingredients mixed up. All right, so we've got our dry ingredients mixed up in this bowl. You just put them in there 5 or 6 seconds just to get it mixed up. The next thing we're going to do is add a 1/2 cup of 1/2 inch diced cold unsalted butter. It's important that it's cold. Keep it chilled, dice it up and store it in your fridge until you're ready to use it. But we're going to drop that in and we're going to turn our mixer on low. And we're going to let this mix until those chunks of butter are about the size of peas. Okay, so I've got this mixed up and my butter has worked into the dry ingredients and it's just little small bits of butter now. It does take a little bit of time, and what I usually end up doing is let the machine do the work for about a minute, and then I get my hands, turn off the machine, get my hands in there and just feel around. If I find a big old chunk of butter, I just kind of smush it with my finger. It's a lot like making scones where you're working the butter into the flour, and you can actually do this with your hands if you don't have a mixer. But anyway, so the butter's all mixed in, and the next thing we're going to do is add our wet ingredients. And we've got some buttermilk. Now, when you're using buttermilk, be sure you shake it up before you pour it into your vessel. We're going to go with 1 3/4 cups. Now, buttermilk is acidic and baking soda is alkaline. So when the two interact together, that's what is our leavening agent in this loaf of bread. It's what gives our bread the rise, and that's why we don't need yeast in this recipe. So I've got 1 3/4 cup of buttermilk. I'm going to put in my grated orange rind, and I'm going to add 1 egg. I always like to crack my eggs in a separate container and just take a look at them. I buy pasture-raised eggs, and sometimes you get surprises. So that egg looks great. I'm going to pour it into my buttermilk and just going to break up the yolk. This does not have to be heavy-duty mixing. Yeah, I'm splattering a little bit. That's okay. There, the yolk's broken up. And we're going to add this to our dry ingredients. And it's going to be a very wet, sticky dough. We don't want to overmix it. We just want all the dry to be incorporated into the wet. So we're going to do that now. Okay, so I've added the buttermilk mixture to our flour mixture, and I've gotten up most of the dry ingredients. I can still see a little bit of dry down at the bottom, and I'll be sure that's mixed in. But before I do, I have about a tablespoon of flour that I'm going to add to my currants. Now, if you can't find currants, you can use raisins or cranberries. Currants are a type of raisin, and of course raisins are just dried grapes, so you can interchange currants and raisins. I had to go to 3 or 4 stores in my town before I could find the currants for some reason. They used to be easier to find, but they're just small raisins. And be sure that your currants are not all clumped together. Sometimes when they come out of the bag or the box, they're in a big wad, and you just want to break that up. Now we've added flour to it so that the currants don't sink to the bottom of the batter. So I'm just simply going to add these in and mix it very quickly. It's all right. There. Okay. Now I've got a big bit of dough here. I'm actually going to go in one more time. I can see a lot on the bottom that's dry. Okay, there. Now we're going to scrape off all this from the beaters. I find it's easier to use my fingers. But let's see. Get all this off. And then we're going to flour our board pretty well, because like I told you, this is a very sticky dough. But it bakes up into this beautiful scone-like loaf. Alrighty, so here's my dough. The currants are all mixed in. And I'm going to take some flour on my board. I'm going to get my spatula and I'm just going to scoop it all out in one big lump. It's stiff and sticky. That's the best way to describe Irish soda bread dough. There. Now, we don't want to knead this and get heavy-handed with it, or it will make our loaf tough. But you definitely want to get your hands in some flour so you can touch it without it making a big old sticky mess. See, there's even some that sticks there. So all we're going to do is just knead it 3 or 4 times just to get it to stick together. There, not overworking it. Pat it out into a round. We're going to take a sharp knife and cut an X in the top. It doesn't have to be real deep, 1/4 inch is fine. And then we're going to set this on our parchment-lined baking sheet. I'm going to pop it in a 375 oven for 45 to 55 minutes till it's nice and brown, and when you tap it, it has a hollow sound. If you have a Insta-Read food thermometer, you could stick it in. You wanted it about 185, 190 degrees finished, but that's not necessary. Just, I usually find it takes about 55 minutes, a nice deep color, and it sounds hollow. So I'm going to put this in the oven, and we'll take a look at it when it comes out. Okay, our Irish soda bread is out of the oven. It actually baked in there in my oven for pretty close to an hour, but it's got that hollow sound when I tap on it, and it's a nice deep golden brown color. I'm going to cut into it now and see what it looks like. It's a little early, but I'm going to go ahead and do so. I think it's going to be fine, though. You do want to let it cool just a little bit. Let me try this knife. Experiment with what knives you use too. Some will tear your bread up and others won't. That one I don't think I'll use. But yeah, this is nicely done. It's got a wonderful orange scent to it. Put some butter on it and have it warm in the morning. Toast it, and it's delicious that way. Also want to tell you, if you're not a fan of orange rind, you could use lemon rind in this and maybe some dried blueberries. Now that's really going off tradition, but I think it would still be very good. Anyway, this is nice and warm and tender and soft. It's almost like a great big scone. I appreciate you watching today. If you're enjoying my videos, give them a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment if you try a recipe, and let me know how it turned out for you, and I will see you next time. Bye.